If I could turn my phone down. Oh, I already did.
Yeah, I just remembered to do that, but now I've got children going all over the place. I just want to make sure they don't get back home. They text me when they get
All right. I am calling the meeting to order, and if we will all rise, please, for the invocation. Heavenly Father, we ask comfort for all those whose hearts hurt as we suffer and are in pain from losing loved ones. And I don't think there's anybody here that can't relate to that. Amen. All right. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarah, will you please call the roll?
I forgot to pull up.
Klaus?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Ropa?
Here?
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer?
Here.
I show Johnson and Lathrop is excused.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? They stand approved. This is our first opportunity for public comment. Sarah?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. 1. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. 2. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may at his or her discretion extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
At this time, would anyone like to make public comment?
I'm Martin Colburn, 1615 West Lane, Traverse City. I would like to introduce myself as the new city manager of Traverse City and look forward as we partner with the county on many different projects and services. So I look forward to that. Spent part of the day with Mr. Byrd this morning in regard to emergency operations and preparation of the Cherry Festival, and with Gene in regard to some of the economic development projects that we're working on. So again, I recognize that we'll be partners on many different projects and look forward to meeting you and working with you and providing the services to this great community. Thank you.
Have you ever been to the Cherry Festival?
Never.
Oh, you're in for a treat, Mr.
Welcome.
Colburn, and we warmly welcome you, and I'm quite confident that you're going to be immediately, if you have not already been, impressed with our county staff.
Very much so, and just the whole regional area is such a real gem to Michigan, so I'm pleased to be able to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else, please? Come forward.
My name is Annette Garris, and I live at 5254 Circle Drive, Traverse City, Michigan. And I wrote you a letter that I'd like to read. I didn't time it, so I hope it's under 3 minutes. Dear Traverse City County Commissioners, I am a resident of East Bay Township in Grand Traverse County. I've lived most of my life downstate. Growing up in Detroit, I learned to swim in my high school pool. After I got married and had children, we lived in Southfield and West Bloomfield. Both of these suburbs had swimming pools in their high schools and additionally had community swimming pools. Both of my children took swimming lessons in these pools. I was surprised to learn when we moved here 18 years ago that there are no swimming pools at either high school, and there is only the community swimming pool at the Civic Center. That in itself I find grossly lacking to meet the needs of all of our citizens. I have attended water aerobic classes 3 to 5 times a week at the Civic Center for several years. The teachers are well qualified, and I appreciate having classes at various times throughout the day to meet everyone's needs. My orthopedic doctor suggested that I do water aerobics, as it provides a very beneficial workout that doesn't affect my knees. I can no longer do land exercises due to my deteriorating knees. Not only are the water classes beneficial to my body, but they are also beneficial to my well-being. I have made several friends whom I frequently get together with socially outside of the pool. Without the water classes at the Civic Center, I never would have met these lovely ladies. Assuming that you are closing the Easling Pool and everyone will go to the YMCA swimming pool is absurd. The Y is very far to drive to those of us who live on the east side. Many residents could never afford their membership fees. Some of their water classes are limited in size. I feel that the residents of Grand Traverse County deserve to have a community pool to serve the needs of all their residents without having them have to go to a private venue. Mr. J. Buckmaster, the CEO of the Traverse City YMCA, spoke eloquently and logically at the Friends of the Easling Pool meeting on June 15, 2015. He said the YMCA pool can't accommodate all the outside organizations that currently use the Easling Pool. He also stated that their mission and priority is to their members. Mr. Buckmaster also stated the obvious fact that a county as large as Grand Traverse County should have at a minimum 2 pools for their residents.
We don't have a large crowd. Keep going.
Thank you. I have 2 paragraphs. I'm quick. I didn't know I had to time myself. Thank you, Chris. In addition to the water classes that I attend, there are many other people who use the Easling Pool. Daily at noon, there is a large group of adults who swim in a league. Special needs children and adults have classes at the pool. A lot of residents come to the open swim time at the pool. Additionally, children come to the pool for swimming lessons, and we all know how important that is living up here with all the drownings we've had the last few years. Grand Traverse County prides itself on the quality of life the residents who live here receive. Closing the Easling swimming pool will severely alter the quality of life for many of its residents. Please do not close the Easling pool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Green is stepping up, but please feel free to follow her.
Geraldine Green, 214 East 11th Street. It's too nice to spend the whole evening in here, so what I may have been asking later, I'll be home on my back porch enjoying myself. And I think you're going to be talking about an audit tonight. And if you are, after watching your last meeting, I really wondered why nobody talked about going out for a bid for that audit. And then I really wonder if you could just ask your finance person about what's going on. And I can't believe that you don't all know, almost down to the penny, what goes on in this county, and that you need a special audit now to tell you things you already know. Mr. Benda and your treasurer gave you advice about your long-term debt that you have that you chose not to take. Now I'm going to change the subject just a little bit. I was very surprised when you came back from Pennsylvania, and what I could figure out what you came back was about how we can spend more money. That surprised me. You can hardly wait to spend some more money from what you learned there. That, I guess, is about all I have to say.
Thank you,
Anyone
Jerry.
has any questions, be glad to respond. Thank you.
name is Kate Paulson, and I live at 11624 Willow Point Drive. And I am here tonight to speak on behalf of Friends of Easling Pool. And I just wanted to make you all aware of our meeting that we had last Monday evening at the Civic Center, where the Friends of Easling Pool had 140 folks in attendance. And 30 of those people say that they are not members of Easling Pool currently, but they still think it's a very relevant resource in our community. And they have agreed to try to help us with efforts as we move forward. At our meeting, we heard from several organizations who use the pool on a rental basis. And also, Chris Erickson was there and shared with us a lot of the financials of Easling Pool. And also, as we heard, Jay Buckmaster was there and shared a little bit about the YMCA's feeling that they probably can't support the entire community in their one facility. So I just wanted to mention that we felt the meeting was a huge success, and we thank everyone on the Parks and Recreation Commission, who then has had 2 conversations with us since then, one at the business planning meeting and one at the Parks and Recreation meeting last week. Thank you for taking your time with us on those 2 occasions. I just wanted to give you all an update that we have all these citizens now ready to work on behalf of the pool and saving the pool. And we are certainly hopeful that you all, as our county commission, would be behind us and support our effort as we do some legwork to make it happen. Tomorrow we have a meeting with the folks at the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation, and that is our first of a group of meetings as we try to figure out the best way for us to approach potentially grant writing. We also see there will be some fundraising probably in our future, and the information we're getting as far as priorities is being kindly given to us and shared by Chris Erickson over at Parks and Rec. So I just wanted to commend her on her great partnership with us and teamwork and good relationship that we seem to be developing right now as we work together, but not to put anything more on her desk because we understand that she has plenty going on. So I just wanted to just say that I hope that we can continue to work as a team and we can continue to have your support, keeping that pool going as a viable option in the community until we can get our hands in and really start making some good progress and dent to fulfill the needs financially of what needs to happen at that pool. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing no rush to the podium, I would ask if there are any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda from anybody. No one is.
Do we need to add these 2%?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I was going to just simply point them out as far as 2% grant applications, but you are exactly right, Commissioner Kropa, thank you. I would like to add the 2 Parks and Rec 2% grant applications that are on your desk to the agenda for discussion. So I will put that as, I guess, number 1 under new business.
They would need to be for immediate approval, I'm assuming?
Well, everything is for immediate approval. The deadline for the 2% grants is June 30th.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And so tonight is the night, if the county board chooses to pass those grant applications on to the Grand Traverse Band. So I will add that as number 1 under new business. Okay, with that agenda change, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Kropa, seconded by Commissioner Crawford to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Consent calendar. Sarah, this is your turn.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. All information identified on the consent calendar can be viewed in its entirety at www.grandtraverse.org. A, receive and file. 1, Huron County resolution regarding mental illness. 2, Board of Public Works Finance Committee special meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2015. 3, Northern Nexus minutes of February 26, 2015. 4, Grand Traverse County Department of Human Services minutes of March 27, 2015. 5, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of April 19, 2015. 6, Community Collaborative meeting minutes of April 23, 2015. 7, Department of Veterans Affairs minutes of April 23, 2015. 8, Grand Traverse County Board of Public Works minutes of April 27, 2015. 9, Grand Traverse County Department of Health and Human Services minutes of April 28, 2015. 10, Northwest Regional Airport Commission minutes of April 28, 2015. 11, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority minutes of April 29, 2015. 12, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health minutes of May 21, 2015. 13, Traverse Area District Library minutes of May 21, 2015. B, approvals. The Public Health and Safety Committee did not meet in June. The Resource Management and Administration Committee recommends approval of the following. 14, 13 Circuit Court Community Corrections Staffing Plan Amendment. 15, Memos of Understanding, Johnson Controls, and Seeds. The Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following. 16, June 2015, 2% tribal grant applications. 17, acceptance of grant funding, Biederman Foundation. 18, 2015 tax foreclosure proceeds to Housing Trust Fund. 19, budget adjustments.
All right. Would any member of the public, the board, or staff like any item removed from the consent calendar? All right. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'm sorry. Can I remove item B6, please?
You may. Item B6. Anyone else?
B6.
Going once?
Which one is B6?
That's the 2% money. The 2% travel grants.
Commissioner Wheelock has never voted to submit 2% grants.
It's 16.
In his
It's B16.
Oh,
B16, thank you.
That's why
All
I
right.
was confused.
I just need to clean my glasses.
All right. Item B16, anyone else? All right.
I will move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item B16.
Support.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Kropa, supported by Commissioner Klaus to approve the consent calendar as amended with the accepting item B16. I'll get it out yet, folks. All right. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. There is no special order of business. Item removed from the consent calendar. Item B16, Commissioner Wheelock.
As Commissioner Max Bauer has already identified, I have never supported the 2% applications. I believe that the way the Grand Traverse Band handles the 2% money is an absolute violation of the compact between Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians and Governor John Engler. They have never complied with the consent agreement that allowed them to have the casino in the first place, and therefore I have never supported the way they process and handle the 2% money. If you read the consent calendar, there's very specific ways that that money has to be given back to local units of government. It is not entitled to any of these nonprofit organizations or any of those. It is required by the consent agreement to go back to the local government units of government, and historically they have always given a sizable piece of their money. In the December one to the nonprofits, the one in June does come to more governmental entities, but anyway around it, it's in a violation. In my mind, it's a violation of the way the consent agreement is, and therefore I've never supported this application.
All righty. Is there a motion to approve the 2% June 2015 2% tribal grant applications, moving them on to the Grand Traverse Band?
I will make that motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Kropa, supported by Commissioner Crawford, to forward the 2% grant applications to the Grand Traverse Band. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. I'm sorry, Sarah,
we need a
let's
roll
have a
call.
roll call.
Yeah.
Crawford?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Klaus?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes. I'm sorry, Commissioner Wheelock, I don't know what I was thinking. All those in favor say aye.
I had to make sure that the notes recorded that.
Yeah,
I voted it some
okay.
other way.
Department action items, facilities. Request for compressor replacement at Hall of Justice. I believe, Dean, that is you.
Goes down, yes. Passing out a summary that Danny Brown and Casey Wise from Facilities prepared. Danny Brown, our facilities manager, called me probably the first part of last week, and I do apologize for doing this way, but we weren't able to have, I guess we don't have all of the information we want, but I thought it was important to let you know that our compressors on the Hall of Justice, we have 2 of the 6 cooling modules that are currently out of operation. And rather than wait until we have folks in the building say, hey, we can't work in this environment, and we have been very fortunate to have cool, non-humid weather to this point. And we don't know what the remaining modules or compressors will be able to do when we do have that weather. So rather than wait until we hear the complaints, I asked Danny to start seeing what our prices would be to replace those 2 compressors, and also, you know, the time, if that equipment was available in the event that we had the approval from the board to order it. But then also, his staff has the ability to install the compressors, but that process would take a little bit longer. But if you read through this, and I was out of the office all day today, so I am seeing this for the first time. I was in Livonia, really didn't have a chance to communicate with Danny today, but I think this is a pretty good summary of where we're at. He's saying that we need to replace them, and I'm relying on his expertise, and Casey, who uncovered the issue, you know, through normal maintenance. You know, we were firing the compressors up to make sure that they were going to work the way they should, and they weren't able to function properly. So we've established, in my opinion, that we need to replace them. So I guess the question then, and Danny and I, we need direction. If we have approval to continue to proceed with securing, you know, pricing, and we could come back next week. I think Public Health and Safety is next week.
Wednesday, yes.
And that's what I'd like to do. I mean, we have here another, I have 2 quotes from Trane, who is the current manufacturer of the compressors that we have on or at the Hall of Justice. And if we stay with their compressor, we don't have to do a lot of reconfiguring, repiping, replumbing, and that's an area beyond my expertise. But Danny is suggesting at this point in time that we stay with the same vendor, so we don't have to do a lot of additional plumbing and retooling. But we'll figure all of that out and come back next week. But it does look like it would take about a week to order. I mean, once we order, it would take a week to have the equipment. And then there's the issue of, you know, we need a crane to put the equipment on the roof. It's on the roof. You can have the vendor, in this case Trane, do all of that for you, including the labor. And I'll give you just some rough numbers at this point in time. The modules or the compressors by themselves, it's about a $13,000 cost just to replace the compressors.
Each?
That's for both.
Okay.
If we would have the same vendor, Trane, or the manufacturer, come in and install, you know, basically hook those compressors up, we're talking $24,700. So with $13,000 cost for the compressors and about $11,000 to do the labor, provide the crane, and they do all of the work. We do have a quote at this point in time from a local, D&W Mechanical, and their cost, labor only, is $10,920. So the labor costs are pretty comparable, but we're evaluating whether or not we want our own staff to do this. But we have concluded that it would probably take longer with our facilities staff because of, they have other things that they're doing. So I don't really have Danny and I have not formulated a recommendation at this point.
Okay.
I know what my personal opinion is. I just don't want to wait too long on this. We've established that the compressors aren't working and that we need to replace them. What exactly or how we go about that, I don't have that solution for you tonight.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Dean, I guess I'm just trying to make sure, the 24/7 number that Crane included, was that parts and labor?
Yeah, yes, it's all inclusive,
So that's a total included price.
including the having the crane to put the units up on the roof.
Well, I have a couple comments, I guess. Number one, I don't think this building's that old that we should be having these kind of issues, number one, because it was, built in 2000?
I asked the
2008.
same question.
2000.
So did I.
I think I would lean really hard on Train to see if they won't do some evaluation. But more interesting is the comments here that they believe that this problem caused from a power surge because there's damage to other components in the system. If that's a case, number one, I'd be asking the power company why we're getting that kind of a power surge. But more importantly, I would probably be asking my insurance company whether or not they are willing to pay a component of this. I know when I had a lightning strike at my house that damaged my well, my insurance company paid for everything except my deductible on that process. So, I would certainly ask those two questions. Number one, first, why are these things failing in a matter of 6 or 7 years? And secondly, whether or not we have insurance that will cover the replacement of them.
Just a couple of quick comments. Based on, and I need to get back with Danny, but he's saying it may have been caused. So I don't know if we're going to be able to determine that. We obviously can submit to MMRMA for an insurance claim, but we've actually been in the Hall of Justice closer to 9 years, though.
2006.
So, but even
2007.
Yeah, even then, though, there are a number of us that raised that same question. It seemed like, we should have a longer life cycle on these units than what we're. And the other concerning fact is that, Danny's uncertain, and Casey, if we could have issues with the other, the remaining compressors as well. So let us do some more research, and you'll see this again next week.
All right. Anything else? And if anybody has any questions, I would encourage commissioners to give our facilities director, Mr. Brown, a call. All right. Administration, Finance, Historical Courthouse Clock.
Here's another situation where Danny asked, Danny's your lead on this, and he's been working with the group of citizens that have been raising money for the clock. And Danny had received the proposal, which I've included in your packet here this evening. And Danny, neither Danny nor I have the authority, and we didn't want to make a decision here, but this, the Verdon company was, obviously it's a dated proposal. I mean, their proposal is valid, I think, for 60 days, and we received this on May 27th. The cost here is to complete the work that was planned or anticipated. That cost is $30,855. We received a very sizable contribution or donation towards that last week. That comes to us in 2 installments, and there's about $1,500 in the trust and agency fund. So you're under about $10,000 to complete this work. So a decision has to be made, and I don't have the authority to make the decision. And Danny was asking me to make a decision. And Danny, I said, I think the best thing to do is take this to the board. But I guess the idea that I've had is, the group is continuing to raise funds, and I think we should give some consideration to authorizing this work to be completed with, we're not, with an understanding that there could be, a county contribution towards this if the fundraising does not produce or yield the remaining funds that are necessary. I don't know how successful they're going to be to raise an additional $9,000, but the company and Danny would like to do this work. They'd like to do the work obviously over the summer months, which would mean, they would need a decision from us if we're going to go with this, or if we're just going to put it on hold until we have the balance of the funding. And I certainly, this is just my opinion, but I have faith, and faith is not probably how we should base our decisions, but the group has done a tremendous job. Yesterday morning I walked in, I was coming in just before 7:30. That's the first time I've heard the chime on the bell, and maybe that's, it's not that loud, but that was the first time I've heard it in years, and it kind of was a nice way to start the day, to hear that. But I know there's more work that they want to do on the clock, and I would hope that you would consider saying, yes, we're going to authorize that this proposal be, signed on behalf or by the county, and we just move it forward.
Commissioners, Commissioner Karopa.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the payment to be made and the work to be completed on the clock tower with decisions made by Danny Brown and Dean Bott regarding the choice of vendor.
Is there support?
Support.
Supported by both Commissioner Klaus and Commissioner Crawford.
Very supportive.
Pick one,
Whatever.
Sarah.
We put a multi-million-dollar faith in funds being raised for a dam removal. I think we can put our faith in $9,000 for the clock restoration. In less than half a year, that group has raised more than, two-thirds of what they've needed to do. It's been tremendous what they've been able to do. I think that would be silly to say no from a community group that's done so much for an asset that we own at the county.
Any
Seems like a
additional?
no-brainer.
Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We did that on our consent calendar.
Effective.
Well, the consent
because
calendar
The consent
accepted the
calendar
grant.
had the Biederman
Yeah.
grant.
But now the balance due,
It's number
Danny
17.
and Dean can work on together. I don't think we need to go through RFPs
If
and
you
all
think
that.
we need to do it over again, Bob,
It's less
Okay.
than the dollar amount for the purchasing policy.
Okay.
So I think that.
we're good. He says we're good. Everybody's good. Moving on.
Thank you.
Update regarding financial analysis. Do you want to chime in, Dean,
Yeah,
or?
let me start. I called Mr. Peacock, Steve Peacock, because that was who you had talked with, and he is our auditor, so he's very familiar with our financial position, our financial, at least our comprehensive annual financial report.
Dean, I would like to interrupt you for just a moment. You all heard Mrs. Green come forward and say, why don't you bid your audit? This is not the audit. The audit for Grand Traverse County is bid every single year. This is not an audit, and I just wanted the public to understand, and clearly there is a misunderstanding out there. So thank you, Dean, for that, allowing me to interrupt. Please continue.
Quite all right. So what we need to do, though, is define, we basically need to provide Steve with some direction in terms of what it is we would like him to do. We're not going to ask him to do another audit. That's been done. So the scope of this work is outside of that work, and I also was not quite clear on everything that would be included, and I had sent him a quick email. I would have normally called him, but I know he's submitting or filing audit reports with the state.
June
one of which-
30th
One of which
deadline.
is ours. So, and then it was also a request for, will you be providing us with a proposal? Because I wasn't quite sure as to what you had discussed with him, and so we're just starting that
We are.
dialogue.
May I?
Yes, I'm finished.
May I chime in and clarify it if I can? My intent was to ask the county board if they believed that an independent financial analysis was necessary. And for members of the public, please understand that we are faced with an unfunded pension liability, OPEBs that need to be paid, river restoration, capital improvements that perhaps need to be addressed. There are a number of issues that the Grand Traverse County Board is facing, and the idea behind an independent financial analysis was for the county board, as well as staff and the public, to have a clear understanding of exactly where we are financially, because what I have heard time and time again from this county board is we want to know what our costs are so we can budget appropriately in the future and so that we can plan. So this is the first step in that process. The reason, Commissioner Wheelock, you were not here, the reason that I suggested Mr. Peacock was because he is so very familiar with our finances. He has been our auditor for a number of years. I agree with Dean that we do need to sit down with Mr. Peacock and we need to speak with him about a scope of work, much like we did with Mr. Muha. We approved Mr. Muha coming in with results-based budgeting before we approved the scope of work. So what I am suggesting for the county board is I would like myself and perhaps 2 other commissioners to sit down with Mr. Peacock and clarify what the scope of work is. I know in my mind what I am looking for in a scope of work. Dean and I have been in communication. Once we have a scope of work, Mr. Peacock is willing to look at an hourly rate, so the county board will clearly know what this independent financial analysis will cost. For us to move forward with any kind of strategic plan, I think we have to have this financial analysis first. So that's where I'm coming from, and I am anxious to hear from other commissioners. Commissioner Crawford.
I do think it's important to understand that this analysis, there's a difference between, you can say our budget is balanced. Okay. And you can say our audit is clean. Okay. That means the numbers are correct. That's it. So you can say, well, our audit is clean and our budget is balanced. That doesn't give you a clear picture of where we're at. Because your budget can be balanced with payments that are due in the next 12 months, and we're okay, we're taking in this much, we're going to spend this much, we're good. And it doesn't give you a clear picture of the future of things that are owed, obligations that we have, and things like that. So an analysis will do that. It will give you, and the reason that we have to have an independent analysis, aside from our own accounting department, is it's just a second set of eyes, much like an audit. An audit is another set of eyes saying, well, have you thought about doing it this way or this way or this way? And if you look at something every day, it's not, you might have a clear picture, but just a second set of eyes might pick something up immediately that nobody else got. And it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing, they just look at it every day. So I think it's really important to get a second set of eyes and a good opinion. They perform analyses with different ratios and things to maybe know where we stand in relation to other counties of our size, budget-wise or population-wise, and just so we know where we're at and where we're headed. It's going to be a good thing to know.
I'm going to take a giant leap here and suggest that Commissioner Crawford sit with me and Mr. Peacock and talk with him about a scope of work. Dr. Lathrop and Dr. Johnson, neither one of them are here, so if I don't have a third volunteer, I can certainly volunteer one of them. But I would absolutely like to move forward on this. Grand Traverse County needs to know the commitments that we've made, what they are going to cost, and this board needs to know that in order to plan appropriately as we move ahead. We need to have budget projections, and that's just exactly what they are. They are projections. You know, it will clarify what lies ahead of us. So, Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I will volunteer my time to sit on that committee.
All right.
I have a great deal of faith in our finance department. Maybe I can bring a little history to how we got here, where we're at. I've been through that a couple times before, and I think
Now,
there's some value to that also.
While I appreciate your volunteering, I want you to understand, Commissioner Wheelock, that I'm not looking at history.
I understand that.
I know how we got into this hole, and let's not go there now. The idea is to get a clear picture of where we are so that this board can plan.
If the idea is to promote your agenda and move forward with that agenda, then let's just say that. You obviously have taken it upon yourself to go out beyond the finance department and make contact with our auditor on a personal basis without running it through the finance department and the administration. So if you don't want my input, that's perfectly fine. But you need to understand, if you're doing that, you're doing nothing but saying you're promoting the agenda that you have.
Commissioner Wheelock, if my agenda is getting real numbers for this board to work with, then I'm extraordinarily proud of that agenda. And I did not go behind anyone's back to do this. Do you want to serve on this committee in a positive manner?
Absolutely.
Fine. In that case, Commissioner Crawford, Commissioner Wheelock, and myself will move forward with an independent financial analysis. Now, please understand, we have not decided on the scope of work. That will come back to the full board. We just need to sit down with Mr. Peacock and hear him and have him hear us as we decide upon a scope of work.
Got it.
All right? Are we all okay with that?
Yep.
I'm
All
a big
right.
supporter of this. I'm proud of this if it's an agenda. If the agenda is to
As am I.
If the agenda is to do the job that was entrusted into every commissioner sitting here before me that I feel was failed by many, I'm proud to have this agenda. And I look forward to seeing the scope of work from this. I'm not certain how anybody balances their checkbook without knowing how much debt they're in. Carol's absolutely correct. You could open up someone's checking account today and hack into it and look, and they might have $10 million in their checking account. Oh, but they have $50 million in credit card debt and upside-down mortgages on properties. We don't know where we stand in this county, and I understand it's hard for citizens to absorb that. But we truly don't know where we sit. And if that's an agenda, wow, I guess we all have it.
Well,
We took an oath, didn't we?
all right. Moving on. Dean, June claims.
You should have on your desk the claims for the month of June totaling $5,866,780.10, and I'm asking for your approval of those claims.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve claims in amount of $5,866,780.10.
Is there support?
Support?
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Old unfinished business, URS bill that keeps coming up, and I thank you, Commissioner Klaus, for catching that many moons ago. Dean,
We have not received that yet, so it will be
coming
presented
to us again. All right,
I got a question.
Yes.
Dean, at some point, can you pull all of those invoices for that contract? So that I can sit down up in the office there and just go through them? I would just like to go through.
I believe I said that I would attempt to get that information. I just haven't had a chance to ask CRA. I mean, we do have it.
But we've got it internally already, don't we? I mean,
I don't have it. If Dave, Dave would have had it in his emails, but yeah, we'll compile that.
okay.
But I have to get beyond June 30th first.
right?
He's got an audit,
Okay.
so,
All right, thank you.
all right. Bob?
I gotta ask a question. I mean, I'm confused about this. Three of us sitting on this board have businesses and we invoice our customers. And periodically, my customers call me and say, hey, why did you charge me X number of dollars for that? Or why did you do that? And I'll pull up the invoice and I'll look at it and I'll go, oh, well, I charged you this because of that. Or periodically, I find an error or I may need to ask an employee what they did. This has been weeks. If they sent out an invoice, isn't it in a form where it was work that was done and they're asking for reimbursement? Doesn't that right in and of itself state we know what we're billing you for?
The company, Kim can probably answer this better than I can, but URS was bought out or became part of a larger company, and there's been some changes within that AECom entity. And the folks that we're working with have requested that, the billing match up with the various components of the work, and that they're just not getting the information back from corporate headquarters in terms of how you match, the work or the invoice. The invoice would have been generated by the parent company.
Okay.
And the local folks are trying.
Right.
And they keep apologizing for something that they've made the request to get a corrected invoice, but the people that they work for, the higher-ups, they're probably not paying enough attention to it. And they keep apologizing. We are going to get something at some point in time, but we have not paid for the work that's been done either, so you would think that there would be some motivation to get the billing corrected so that it matches up with the contract that we have, and I don't have any control over that,
No.
so.
So, Dean, and you're saying that you're holding up paying an invoice.
Yeah, we haven't given, this board has not authorized the payment on that invoice because of the discrepancies that you.
Has this board or past boards approved those invoices in the past, or did this
No,
just come
no,
up
prior-
because of Dave Benda is not here?
Right, prior to Dave's departure, the board had given Dave the authority to approve those invoices for payment.
So they would have come similar to how we saw them,
Except they went to Dave.
except they went to Dave.
Correct. They would not come before the audit committee. They were provided to the IT, CRA, and then whether or not it was work on the actual, there's a component here that's the road commission with the bridge. But no, Dave would have approved those invoices for payment.
So,
I'm going to jump in here because I'm chair, I can. The reason that these invoices came forward is Commissioner Kropa telephoned me and said, I've never seen any of these invoices, and I'm a new commissioner, and I'd like to see them. And I presented this to the board, and I believe, if memory serves me correctly, the new commissioners, yourself and Commissioner Crawford and Dr. Johnson, said, I'd like to see the invoices. So I suggested, rather than having Dean pay the invoices without us seeing them, that they be presented to the county board. And that proved to be extraordinarily beneficial because, Commissioner Klaus, you yourself found this error.
we're in a new month, we should have received another invoice from them. I'm assuming that they're working every month.
Just to add what Commissioner Maxbauer just said, I did not have the authority to pay these invoices, and I would never do that. I know what authority I have from this board. So that's another reason the invoices came back to you. There was also a request to give me that authority. I really didn't want that authority, and the board said, no, we want to see the invoices. So, no, I think obviously they're continuing to do work on the project, on this is the engineering and the design phase, but until they resolve the billing issue that we have noted, thanks to you, I didn't catch it, so I'm giving you full credit. I mean,
You are getting the credit
I
here.
think they're
Commissioner
reluctant to invoice us until they have it worked out with them.
Commissioner Crawford?
I have not
new
seen
ones.
another invoice subsequent to the one that we're still waiting to.
So, but has the finance department written the checks prior to this for that?
No,
I mean,
we have
prior
a,
to, like, prior to this last $30,000?
no, we have agreements in place with the Conservation Resource Alliance Group. They're receiving the various grants. We have a fiduciary agreement in place. They're doing the accounting, but without all of the required approvals,
I
the
see.
invoices can't be paid.
Okay.
That invoice will not be paid until this board approves it.
Okay, so they're not being paid from the
That's-
finance department?
that's
They're
correct.
approved here now and paid out of,
What's changing,
Restoration.
what's...
They're not going to be paid any more until they are approved here. This stops.
and what I guess I was trying to get at is that our finance department doesn't have copies of them because they never paid any of them.
That
It's
is
just
correct.
this one time we're approving them as a board, or
Well, from
disapproving.
now on, we are going to approve these invoices. We will see them.
Right. So, okay, so that's why it's a little more difficult to get history,
It is.
because we don't have it.
But I'm sure we can get it.
I'm sure we will.
Is there going to be a problem with what you say makes sense? Obviously, URS went to AECom, so if Commissioner Klaus has requested all the past invoices, those would be URS, whereas although this is listed as a URS bill, it's since they've switched to AECom that this has happened. Are we going to have a problem with getting questions answered on past invoices because it's a different parent company?
Well, I don't want to, until we see the invoices, I don't know if we're going to have, we'll get the invoices and take a look at them.
Okay.
I'm sure that CRA has the invoices, and we'll get right on that. We'll take a look at them. Actually, I think what would make sense is to provide them to the audit committee, so that, Ron, you're on the
Yeah,
audit
right.
committee.
That
and
makes sense.
You can take a look at them.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, 2%. On your desks, you have two additional 2% grant requests from our Parks Department, Christine Erickson. One is for the Grand Traverse County Native American marker tree. This tree is, for members of the public, is located in the Civic Center on the property. And it's an oak tree that kind of bends like this. And when I was I'm not going to go into that. I used to climb on it as a child, but clearly we can't do that anymore. We need to take care of this tree. It needs some attention. So we have requested from the Grand Traverse Band 2% money to really recognize and fix the area as a whole and recognize what this tree has meant to Grand Traverse County and our history. The other 2% grant request is for video cameras. The Parks Department has long supported and discussed video cameras around the skate park area at the Civic Center. We really do feel that this would be beneficial for parents, children, and citizens as a whole. So with that, I am going to make a motion to forward these 2% grant requests, one for video cameras at our skate park and the other for the care and attention for the Native American marker tree, with the caveat that these grant requests have been reviewed and approved by our county prosecutor. Is there?
I tell you they're reviewed and approved because they're for an obvious county purpose.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there support for my motion?
I will support that.
Supported by Commissioner Kropa. Discussion. Commissioner Kropa.
To let everyone know, since we're the only ones that sit on the board, both of these items have been in our past 3 strategic plans, as well as our current master plans for the Civic Center property as well, and part of our business development team as well for the Civic Center. So they fall in line with desires that we have had for years, yet did not have the funding.
Anyone else? Roll call, please, Sarah.
Kropa,
Yes.
Wheelock,
No.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes?
Max Bauer.
Yes, motion passes. This is our second opportunity for public comment. Seeing no stampede to the podium. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Crawford.
I have been working with Carl Kovacs with Community Mental Health and with Captain Hall at the jail, and also our soon-to-be jail administrator, Lieutenant Ritter. There are some obvious gaps, not obvious, there are some discovered gaps in the community in the mental health services provided to our inmates. I have met with them, and we discovered 3 really big gaps. The reason that our jail has had to hire an outside psychiatrist to fill these gaps. Just as in a nutshell, when an inmate gets their initial evaluation when they enter the jail, it's determined whether or not they need mental health assistance. If it's determined that they do need some mental health assistance, there's some discrepancy in the mental health code of Michigan whether or not community mental health is required to provide that to them. So I'm still researching that piece of it. If they do need mental health assistance, they can apply, start the application process to be part of community mental health, but that takes time. So there's a gap there where they need help, probably immediate help, and they're not a consumer of community mental health yet. So there's a gap right there. Also, there's times when they need mental health assistance, and they don't qualify to be accepted into community mental health as a patient. So there's still our responsibility, and we need to provide them with the assistance they need. And our healthcare contract, we have a contract with an outside healthcare system to provide medical care to our inmates. It does not include psychiatric care. It's part of a menu where you can check it and get it the next time we contract with our medical services for the jail. So that's a consideration going forward to fill that gap. Also, there's an issue when inmates may have seemed okay when they first entered our jail, and over a period of time, jail's not a pleasant place. So over a period of time, their mental health deteriorates to a point where they may need another evaluation to see if they maybe do need some help at a different point other than when they first entered our system. And when I spoke to Mr. Kovacs, he indicated that that's something that they can do. They can come back and do a reevaluation of inmates who are possibly deteriorating over time to see if now they need some assistance and can get in the community mental health program. So we're still working on it. That's just an update. I have another meeting coming up in about 3 weeks. I think we're going to add some players in to evaluate what the mental health code says is required. And there's also in what we received and filed today, this Huron County resolution regarding mental illness, there's a program that I need to research, this Stepping Up program, to help keep the mentally ill out of jail and into the proper treatment that they need. So we also need to research that, so we're working on it.
Okay. I know you are.
I'm working on it.
I know you are, and I appreciate very much your commitment. Any other commissioner reports? Commissioner Kropa?
Committees, the LPT, the local planning team, met today, led by Greg Bird over there. Just a big shout out to all of the agencies working together to deal with the Cherry Festival. I don't think a lot of people realize just how much work goes behind the scenes in coordination with the emergency services agencies, but all the volunteers. And it is something to get to just sit and listen to the people that know what they're doing and deal with it. Simultaneously, we do have the Horse Shows by the Bay, which is now called, I think, the Great Lakes Equestrian Festival. A little over 6,500 people will be in our area just for that, along with multi-million-dollar worth of horses and equipment. We have the Rainbow Festival. The National Forest outside of Mesick was selected by, we really have no other way to describe it, but a large group of hippies that come to a national forest every year to commune with nature. And according to the research I've done, break quite a few laws. So the Michigan State Police is heavily involved in planning, along with the emergency medical services, because there's roughly 1,000 of them that they're expecting. And it can absolutely inundate the services that we could need if something were to happen in our area, while we have hundreds of thousands of visitors here for an air show or something like that. So to watch the coordination of all of our services, it's really quite something, and something to be commended, what they're working on. I'm going to put in another plug for my tourist tax, because we welcome hundreds of thousands of people here every year, which completely overwhelm our emergency services and roads and infrastructures, and we do not tax the people that visit here to help shoulder these costs by the people that call this area home year-round. So I can't help but think of the tax every time I go to one of these meetings and watch them discuss things like, for instance, the Patriot game, the Central versus West High School game, will be held on September 11th this year. It's the way that the calendar falls. And because of that, they'll be doing a big service for veterans, and they anticipate a lot of people there. Things like that we don't realize require emergency management plans and coordination for any kind of thing that could come up. So it's always, to me, as you know, been an honor to get to serve on the local planning team and the local emergency planning commission, and what they do is really quite impressive to me. We had a very interesting brownfield meeting this morning. The project plan came forward for what they're calling the Grandview Marketplace, which is the 3 parcels of land directly next to the Hotel Indigo. It will be high-end apartments on the top, retail on the bottom, including an indoor farmers market, food court type thing. The project does include underground parking, but that's not public parking. It's only parking enough for the citizens that would be living in the apartments. But because of the underground component to it, you certainly have an environmental aspect that's a little bit more significant than others. Obviously, its location next to the Indigo. They are anticipating an additional $7 million in environmental cleanup. If you remember last week, they came before our board and asked for an additional amount to be allocated for environmental cleanup to the Traverse City Brownfield Plan, and this will take up $7 million of that. But that's not the problem. We're facing other problems with Brownfield project, because one of the ways that they clean up the property, and many people heard this word with the Hotel Indigo, is dewatering.
Yeah.
Well, the dewatering plan for this project includes two options. One is the typical option where they truck it off to the wastewater facility plant. The other one is what they call direct discharge into the Boardman River. And the the Brownfield Authority is concerned of the public perception of a large pipe going out of a construction project into the Boardman River. And so I, in my very delicate and quiet way of questioning things today, talked to the developer to find out where the genesis of this concept came from, and it came from none other than the state of Michigan DEQ. Myself and Commissioner Ross Richardson from the City Commission joined together to question him further. I don't like it when the state forces things on local governments, and I think, like I said at the meeting today, we're not River Rouge. I think that we can say we're spending $20 million to restore our river, and to simultaneously ask the taxpayers to fund a project that pumps water directly. Now, of course, it's treated, don't get me wrong. They know their job and they will do their job, but the public perception of dewatering into the Boardman River is of a great concern to me. So it was a very interesting thing. It was left with the developer going to work further to explore the two options, which again made me unhappy because taxpayer time, money, and staff time is spent on researching an option that I stated and will stand by I will not ever vote for. And Ross Richardson said the same. So they're going to come back to our Brownfield Board with a recommendation for direct discharge versus trucking. If you wonder why the question, why would they do this? Well, what's the answer to everything? Cost. The city of Traverse City charges $588,000 estimated for the removal of this treated water from the site. And if they were to do the direct discharge, they could bypass those costs to the tune of several $100,000. I said, I'm wondering about your criteria for it rather than just cost when you factor in public perception. But many of you may have read a sneak preview of this in the Ticker a few weeks ago. It wasn't well received. Well, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. They'll be coming back to the Brownfield Board. I do have a lot of faith in our Brownfield Board. It's a great group, and I think that they are absolutely giving this the due diligence that it requires. Wanted to thank Kim for being here. I'm sure she's glad to not have been called up during the invoices, but we did have an IT meeting for the dams, and as always, I continue to be thankful to be included and have my questions answered. John Syke, I met with him about the results committee, as we're calling it, to move forward with the scope of work for Mr. Muha. Upon John's recommendation and our discussion that we had, it will be staff only on the results committee, no commissioners. And we look forward to the partnership with our staff in moving forward in this new venture and helping them lead the way. And I have complete faith, as we talk about faith, in John and his abilities, and Dean as well, to guide them in working along the scope of work. I'm looking forward to seeing what they come to us with. And last but not least, I had a meeting right before this with Jason Torrey, the acting director of 911, and next week at Public Health and Safety, you will be joined by many of our area's finest first responders to talk to us about the implementation of the 800 system for Grand Traverse County. Jason has been working with Dean, who's put in an amazing amount of time and help into this, to come together with numbers so that we can offer all the options up. Senator Schmidt came up from Lansing and met with our Central Dispatch Board to go over some issues that we have with some legislation problems, and we got some good help and direction there. And we will be having the director from the MPSCS come up from Lansing to talk to our board as well next week. We will have different stories from different first responders in the area to let you know exactly the problems that we're facing and how these different options could help us. So I'm really looking forward to it. You'll be getting your packet tomorrow. Jason has put a lot of time, along with Dean, into the packet you'll be getting. And the one thing Jason wanted me to stress to the Board of Commissioners tonight is please contact him, sit down with him, talk to him before this meeting next week. We have one shot to use the money that was entrusted to us by the taxpayers, and I hope we use it correctly. So lots going on in our committees here at the county this week.
I got a question for Alyssa.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
With the Brownfield, and the water being trucked off. Where does it get trucked to?
That's interesting. It gets trucked to the treatment facility, the sewer treatment facility. It is, the cost to treat the water are the same. You do the same treatment either way, whether it gets directly discharged or trucked. There is a fee from the city of Traverse City, which in this case was approximated at $588,000, for taking it to the treatment plant, where it is, follow me here, where is it discharged after it goes to the treatment plant?
Right, but
Into the Boardman.
Good, Commissioner Crawford.
why does it have to be trucked? Why can't it just be dumped into the sewer and head to the sewer treatment facility by way of the sewer?
I don't know, they always.
Avoid the truck.
I don't know anything about that.
I can't imagine, and I know they do it, they know more than I do about it, but I've seen dewatering. I can't imagine how many
Trucks
I have no
you have
idea.
to
on the one lane on 8th Street.
Well,
They could bike it.
I mean, I can't imagine how quick them trucks would fill up when you're dewatering a water table.
Perhaps that's why it costs $588,000.
Yeah, but.
I don't know the answer, but I will be happy to get that answer. I've never asked about the intricacies of the facility. I was more concerned about the cost savings, but cost isn't the only factor in why we make decisions. And it was interesting to me, but the discussion originated from the DEQ. They suggested this. I don't understand why we can't say to them, no, we're gonna work on our one option, but I guess that's not the way life works with the state of Michigan. Yeah, I will certainly get back with you on that. I know some brownfield people. You want to talk about a learning curve. I mean, I for years have followed the brownfield, and it is like sitting in a PhD class every meeting, and I absorb and read, and I'm looking at stuff through the
I
whole
have to
thing.
tell you, I met with Jean and John within the last week, and I sat in awe of Jean Dorenzi and the knowledge that she has, as well as John Syke, who clearly is a gem for Grand Traverse County and is a leader. I am glad you're on the board, not me.
It is an absolute honor to be on that board. And just one last thing, I wanted to thank Greg. Greg put together a, 50-page emergency report for the Cherry Festival. It's, we've never had an emergency manager in our county that has prepared us in the way that he has done, and it was a really impressive report, and I loved watching all of the agencies come together. I mean, we had everybody there today. So Greg has gone above and beyond, as always, to make sure we're prepared for hopefully whatever happens.
Greg, we are borrowing radios from Michigan State Police, are we not, for this?
60 plus, yeah.
60 plus. And it comes back to what is going to come before us at Public Health and Safety. Commissioner Kropa, your leadership in getting the emergency equipment that Grand Traverse County residents voted for in that surcharge is greatly appreciated, as well as Commissioner Crawford, who before she was ever took office stood up and said, this is what I believe Grand Traverse County residents voted for, as did Dr. Bob Johnson.
We're not quiet.
And
Should not be surprised.
Anyway.
I'm so excited about this presentation for you guys next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And the other thing I want to say, committee reports. Christine Erickson called me, our Director of Parks, called me 2 days ago and said, we need to use Elmwood Township's launch, boat ramp, whatever you want to call it, to put a barge in West Bay so that we can go over to Power Island, drill a well. This has been in the Grand Traverse County Parks Master Plan and business plan for years, and drill a water well so that we can add additional campsites to Power Island. Anyway, Christine called me and said, Elmwood Township has some reservations. So I spoke with Supervisor Kelly yesterday, and I have to tell you, I didn't budge him an inch. But I told Supervisor Jack Kelly that I was going to attend his Elmwood Township meeting this morning. Well, I'm directionally challenged, and I plugged in Lincoln Street into my TomTom, and it kept telling me that I needed to be on the east side of town when I know that Elmwood Township is not on the east side of town. And I got all the way to Bingham Township and turned around. Long story short, Christine Erickson did an informational presentation with Elmwood Township, and they voted unanimously to allow us at no charge to use their launch for this project. And I just wanted to say not only thank you to Chris Erickson for her efforts in this, but because clearly she made the case, no one else did. But I also want to thank Elmwood Township, Jack Kelly, and the township trustees who have partnered with us in Grand Traverse County, and as everyone knows they are in Leelanau County, has partnered with Grand Traverse County a number of times. And it continues to keep an open mind when Grand Traverse County has a project. And I thank Elmwood Township this evening for their willingness to partner with us. So, I've rattled on enough. Notices? None. Closed session? Yay. I saw no's. We are adjourned.
That's